Hello everyone, welcome back. So in the previous video, we built API routes to create, read, and update and delete the records using API routes. So we built these two classes to generate the APIs, and we even tested from the Postman here, the Thunder client. So currently we have these records, and so we have all these APIs ready, up and running, and they are ready. So now let's write the Next.js component and call these API routes and get the data and display on the UI. Okay, if anybody joining this video right now, please check the previous video where we built these APIs, and this is a continuation of the previous video. So let's just recap of what we have added previously. So we added a get method which will return all the records, and there is a post method to create this to do, and there is one more get method to just fetch specific record based on ID, and another method to delete a record from the table, and one more record to update the record from the table in the table. Okay, so right now in this, the first code that we will write is fetching all the records from this API and displaying on the page. Let's start with that. Okay, so as a first step, we need to get all the to-dos. So for that, I'm adding a set state for this. It will be of a use state. Okay, I'm adding a to-do object. I'll add it as I'll add an interface for this. At the same time, it is an array, and here I'll add an interface called to-do, and I'll add the parameters: name, username of string, and ID of string right now. Okay, so when we get the posts, okay, I want to assign those posts and hold it in the to-dos. Okay, so right now we have this API call to get the to-dos. Okay, let's write the API call to get this data. So for this, we have to use effect. Okay, the use effect, and within this we'll use fetch API, and the URL will be API to-dos, and the parameters, I'll just add a cache not to cache the data. Every request when I make, I want to get the new data. At the same, I want to go and get the data from the table instead of caching it. Okay, now then if I get the data, I'll get a response, and once I get the response of data, I think since it is a fetch, it will return we need to call this JSON method to get the data out of it. Okay, once we get this dot, then we'll have a data, real data. Okay, now once I get the data, I'll say set to-dos, I'll set this data. Okay, this is how we can make the API call, get the to-dos and set it to to-dos. So now we set it to to-dos. Now this is available for the UI to load and display on the UI. Okay, if nothing, I'll just return empty. Okay, now we got this API, we get the data, we are setting it to to-dos. Okay, it's time to display this on the UI. Okay, since I already have this UI, okay, built, just the UI's layout. Okay, I'll use this bottom page. Here I'll try to display the data. Okay, so to display the data, we need to iterate this right now. Okay, since it is a list, So we need to iterate. So for that I am using a list. So within this list, so we have it's a to-dos. So we need to call map. On top of map we'll get a to-do, and once we get each to-do, so within this we'll have to just keep a track of a key. A key will be to-do.id. The ID is going to be the to-do ID. Okay, so and within this I'll add a div to display. So the class name would be, I want to center align the data, so justify between I'll highlight this data to do dot name and to do dot username. Okay, why is this throwing? It should be this one, not this. Okay, let me format it. Okay, now we are able to iterate. Okay, now it is displayed but it is not visible. Let me arrange the font styles and all to see it better. Change this name to to-dos. Okay, that would be better. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 to-dos we got. Okay, let me just hit this API and check how many records are there. Okay, you see there are 4 records. Okay, all these 4 records are displayed on the page. Okay, these are the 4 records: watching YouTube videos, go to movies, updating, and Shiva. Okay, these 4 records. Now this is how we can make the API route call and fetch the data and display on the page using use effect. Okay, let's understand. So we need a state property which will hold the list of to-dos. For that reason we used use state and set it here, and it will be of array. So for that reason I created an array, an interface, and attached it here, array of those records. I'm making the fetch API call. I'm not caching the data. When I get the data, I'm setting it to this to-dos. Once it is done, the data will be ready. So I took this to-dos and iterating and displaying on the page. Okay, this is how we can read the data and display on the page. Okay, now let's work on deleting. Okay, let's delete a record. So right now we have these records. Let's add a delete button here and delete the record. Okay, to delete we already have a delete API. Okay, so let me just update this piece. Okay, here I'll add a button, and when I click the button, okay, what I want to do is I'll call this delete to do method. Since I already have to do ID here, I'll get hold of the to do ID. Okay, I'll add just a basic class name for this button to look better. So red color, since it is a delete, we'll add a red color button, and the text would be white. Okay, and a rounded button. Okay, we'll just add delete for this, the button name. Okay, if you see, we got the delete button. Now when I click this delete, I want to delete. When I click this delete, I want to delete this record. When I click this delete, I want to delete this one. Okay, that's how we added. Now let me add this delete method here. Okay, now here, so I'll add a async function. It will be async function, and it will get the to do ID. Okay, within this, once I get the to do ID, I'll directly call the fetch API. So fetch API call, within this, the API to do plus the ID. Okay, and we'll pass some parameters. Again, I don't want to, okay, I don't need a cache for this because it will delete. And the headers would be the content type. It will be application by JSON. Okay, and the method name is delete. Okay, it will delete the record. So once the record is deleted, okay, let's add this one. Once the record is deleted, I want to refresh the page or refresh the page to display the only the leftover records. Okay, so this is how you can write a delete function to delete a record. Okay, now I want to add this refresh page. Okay, so if I want to refresh the page, okay, I need a function, and within this, okay, it will be a constant that I used. Okay, within this I need a use router. I need to get hold of the router. So for that I'll use the router. It will be of a use router. Okay, on top of this router I'll call the reload. If this reload is not working, we can call location dot reload. Okay, this will be of JavaScript. Let's see which one is going to work. Okay, so what I am doing here, when I click this delete button, okay, Next.js router was not mounted. This should be navigation. Okay, next navigation, not the router. Okay, let's use for now, let's use the location to reload. So when I click this delete button, I want to delete this record from the table. I want to make the API call to delete API call and refresh the page. Okay, now let's inspect. Okay, before that, if you see for this, when I click the button, I'm calling this to do method, delete to do, and I'm passing the ID. Once I have ID, I am calling the delete method API to do delete record. Okay, if you see the delete function, this is what we have, API to do's. Okay, this is to do's. Okay, it's not a to do, it is to do's. Okay, now let's run this and see. Okay, I want to keep this window. Okay, when I refresh the page, on the page load, if you see, we got this data. Okay, now I'm clearing this out and let's put it to the side. Okay, now I'm deleting Shiva test. If you see, Shiva test got deleted. There are only 3 records right now. Okay, if you want to check, you can go to the Thunder client. Right now we have 4, right? It should be 3. Okay, the record got deleted. Okay, this is how you can call this route API and delete a record. Okay,